Robyn Flynn filling in for Elias Makos all this week. We do have a Canadian who is going to be competing for a gold medal later today. This afternoon, Krista Deguchi is going to fight for gold. She's a judo athlete. That's coming up this afternoon. We'll keep you updated with our regular TSN 690 Olympic updates during the news. The mayor of Dorval wants to have a discussion, though, on alcohol. This comes following the death of someone who was intoxicated. A person was struck by a car after they were in the road while intoxicated. This just 24 hours before that happened. Another person was hit while in her wheelchair, also reportedly was under the influence of alcohol. Now, the coroner deemed these two incidents were accidental and unrelated. However, this has opened up a broader conversation about alcohol use as a whole, as well as how readily and easily accessible it is to the general public. Now, Marc Doret is the mayor of Dorval, and he joins us now. Good morning, Mayor Doret. How are you?
Good morning, Robyn. How are you? I'm good.
Very well, thank you. Now, what sort of conversation do you think we need to be having right now about alcohol use in Montreal?
So, in our community, there's a combination of factors that have come together that has brought out the fact that there's a lot of alcohol usage taking place in public, and it's not necessarily related to one specific situation. Yes, it's partly related to the situation with the coroner's report, but it's also homelessness. And so, we can look at things and say, well, that's what the coroner said. Let's move on. What I'd like to do is have a discussion with community members, our partners in the city, the SPVM, the health network, and just start to have a discussion about, where are we? What's the impact of abuse of alcohol? And how we can all get together to provide a safer place for everybody, specifically in Dorval.
Absolutely. I'm curious, obviously it's hard to make a decision at this point without all of that information prior to having that discussion, but I'm curious what sort of restrictions could be in place surrounding alcohol use and sales. Are we looking at maybe changing the age for alcohol purchases? Are we looking at changing the hours? I think now you can buy alcohol until 11 p.m. Maybe we make that a little bit earlier in the evening. What ideas have been proposed?
So, what I had mentioned in an article in the Montreal Gazette earlier was that really, it's easy to get alcohol right now. You can get it in Dorval. You can get it in a dépanneur, in bars, at the SAQ. So I think what we all have to do is sit down with community partners, have a discussion about how readily is it available. It's legal. This is the problem. It's legal, but we all need to be responsible. If I went into the liquor store and said I'm buying a bottle of wine every day, and no one would say anything. But if a certain community walks into the SAQ and buys something, well, then it's seen in a different light. So there's a problem there. I think as a whole, we need to have that discussion, and that's what we would like to do with having a discussion with the community in September. So that means local bar owners. That means the police, the health network, ULAVIC, the SAQ, and our bar owners. We just need to act in a responsible manner. It's illegal. We know that it's legal to drink alcohol, but we can't take advantage of the situation.
Absolutely. In conversation with Dorval Mayor Marc Doret, chatting about opening up a conversation, a dialogue surrounding alcohol use in Montreal. I wonder if maybe there's a way of also including educational institutions or, public service announcements to talk about really the dangers of alcohol. I feel like in recent years, we've had so many studies and reports that have come out and said, there is no safe amount of alcohol to consume. Any amount of alcohol is bad for you. This is essentially a legalized poison that is more harmful than a lot of hard drugs that are illegal. So do you think maybe there's room for better public service campaigns to educate people about the dangers of over drinking?
Absolutely. I think we can all do better in that respect. And, some would say that we should maybe target certain groups. I think it has to be an open discussion. And so, because we're seeing what the effects are in our community on the streets with homelessness and the increase of different community members in the city, and I'm sure it's a problem in downtown Montreal as well. So the more we talk about it, I think the better off we all are.
For sure. And it's a complicated issue. If somebody is experiencing homelessness and life is not great, life is difficult, I can understand why they would turn to substances to try and make their life a little bit easier. But I mean, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't help. We're seeing very conflicting messages, I think, because, you have individuals like, let's say, Doug Ford in Ontario, who are making alcohol easier to access and cheaper and easier to obtain, which feels like we're kind of going in the wrong direction here. I've been sober for over 4 years. I myself am an alcoholic. So obviously access to alcohol is not something that's a priority to me. In fact, the way I see it, the less alcohol there is, the better in my mind. But I imagine this wouldn't be a very popular sentiment, the idea of reducing access to alcohol.
Correct. You're probably very right on that. And what I'm talking about is not banning or stopping. It's just having a discussion about when people are over the limit or seem intoxicated. Should we be serving? At what point do we say, no, we're not serving anymore, or no, we're not providing it anymore? And that's really the discourse that, at least in Dorval, we would like to start to have with some of the local merchants and community groups. Because at the end of the day, if we just turn a blind eye and say, well, it's legal, we can do whatever, that certainly is not helping a problem. It's aggravating.
No, and it makes, if I'm not mistaken, a bartender or the owner of a bar can be held legally responsible if they serve somebody alcohol who then gets in their car and drives and injures somebody. So I wonder if there's a way that they can also be held responsible for just, someone drinking too much. Like, is there a limit at a certain point where we say you've been overserved, that's it for tonight, and they have to leave? I mean, it's complicated, right? It's a very sensitive issue.
It's a very sensitive issue. And I know that in our community, there are bars and owners who are responsible. But we can't let it slip. We have to continuously have that discussion and remind people that, this has a major health impact. And, whatever we can do to sensitize our local merchants and our community members, then the better off we are as a whole.
Absolutely. Marc Doret is Mayor of Dorval. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's a very, very important conversation to be having.
Thank you. Have a great day.